So this is the watercolor paper. It's called Arches, and you can see that it's got the name printed on it. But when I turn it like that, the name goes away, so you really only see it when there's light coming to it. And if you happen to have this on here, it's good because you can tell which is the side of the paper that has the sizing on it. If you can read the name, the top side, this side, has sizing on it, which makes it easier to remove paint when you want to. But it's not overly critical if you don't have that. If you do have it, put it so that it's, you know, face side up. But if you don't, it's really hard to tell which side is the front side. So what we're going to do is we're going to wet the paper because watercolor paper stretches when it's wet, and as it dries it shrinks, and so we need to put it on something to tape it to, so that as it shrinks it gets tight again and doesn't wrinkle up. So since we're working from home, we're going to use a cookie sheet. So I've already done one here. So this is what the cookie sheet looks like with the paper on, and it's all taped all around the outside edge. And then I spaced these out 3 inches, and I don't know if you can see it, but the pencil line's right in the middle of the tape there. So this is 3 inches, 3 inches, and then I did 3.5 inches so that I wouldn't have like a really long piece right there. So the goal is to have 4 across and 3 down, so that you have 12 blocks all together. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper and you're going to wet it on both sides. You want to use cold water and make sure that you're getting all the air bubbles out as you're doing this. And make sure your hands are clean, because you have naturally occurring oil on your hand which will resist the paint later on. So wash your hands with soap and water before you start, and then hold it by the corner and let it drip. Then I'm going to take my cookie sheet, and you could use a pizza box, a large piece of cardboard, whatever you happen to have to make it possible for you to tape it down. And then either use a clean cotton cloth or paper towels and dab it to get the excess moisture off. Make sure that the surface that you're going to tape to is dry, otherwise the tape won't stick. Sometimes I'll pick it up and get rid of some of the water on the other side. Put it back down and center it on your cookie sheet. And then take your masking tape. If you don't have masking tape, you can use painter's tape. If you don't have any kind of tape that's going to work, then I would suggest not wetting the paper and just marking off your blocks with the tape without actually wetting it first. If you don't have tape, you're just going to mark off the blocks in pencil. So you want to make sure that you're putting the tape about halfway over the edge, so half of it's on the metal and half of it's on the paper. And if it won't stick, you're going to have to do another row, like maybe 1/16 of an inch in. So here's what it looks like when you've got it taped. Get behind the camera to see what you're seeing. And so you can see that the tape is halfway over the paper and halfway over the metal. And now we're going to dry it, because as it starts to shrink, it's going to wrinkle up. So you don't want to put your grid lines on until after you've dried it. So I use a hair dryer. Make sure the hair dryer is not too close, because the hair dryer can overheat and then it seems like you might have broken it, but as it cools it should come right back on. So I would go like this. And so you're going to keep moving it around until it's all dry. And the way you can tell if it's dry is you take the back of your hand and touch it to the paper. And if it feels cool, it's not dry yet. So keep going until it's completely dry, or you can let it dry overnight. But you want to make sure this is dry before you do your grid. So make sure that's dry. Then take your ruler and mark it off with a pencil. You're going to mark it at 3 inches, 3 inches, and 3.5 inches. And then you're putting the tape over the middle of that marking. So I'm putting the tape this way first, and then I'm going to come up 3 inches and 3 inches and go across this way to get my blocks. And then watch the next video to see how we're going to do the watercolor different techniques. If you have some salt, get some salt so you have that near you. And if you've got wax crayons or wax candlestick, you're going to need to use that for some resist areas. You want either a white crayon or a white candle to do that. If you don't have it, you just won't do that technique.